There are three layers to this. So we've had the #1 hearing test on iOS released now for a number of years, and we've collected over 1.5 million hearing tests.
What's up, Buchanan here with Lorenzo and Nick from Mimi. We are still at IFA, surprisingly. I know this setting looks a little different, but we're actually on a tour bus, and I feel like a complete rock star, and it's so fitting for this tech, because we're going to be talking about sound and their amazing new technology. They just told us all about it. So Nick, Lorenzo, please tell us a little bit about Mimi, just to catch us up. I know we talked a little early before the interview, but just fill us in on what you told us.
We developed a great technology. The idea behind is that we can basically have a model, a software model, an algorithmic model of the way the hearing system works. This genius created one, and we can then do a lot of things with it. And the idea is that the #1 value proposition is that basically we can personalize sound according to your hearing. And after that, you have your imprint, what we call the hear print, Mimi Hearing ID, and we can use it all across devices. So basically, once we know what you can do with your hearing, you can use it on your TV, you can use it on your headphones, you can do it on a smartphone, but also on an airline, for example.
Yeah, so you mentioned earlier when we were talking about how you can fit the technology for someone specifically, their best fit. Can you explain how that tech works and how you guys came up with the idea for that and what it entails, like how the test works exactly?
As we get older, our hearing changes, and this happens in two ways. Firstly, we lose sensitivity to high frequency sounds, but another very interesting factor for us is that you also have trouble listening to some sounds in the presence of other sounds. So you'll often hear people say, "Oh wow, I'm having real trouble listening in this noisy restaurant," or I can't hear the commentators over the noisy background of this sportscast or whatever. So what our technology does is adapts the sound over time to your very individual needs, so that you can hear as much of your content as possible. So it's not just like speech enhancement, but you'll also be able to hear subtle details like a hi-hat in music that you may have missed before, or details in a crowd that you might have missed in a sports presentation or something like this.
And so when people go through that test, how does that test work exactly? What's that process like? So if they're on a plane and they click the Mimi button or whatever they have to press, what's the next step in that process?
There are three layers to this. So we've had the #1 hearing test on iOS released now for a number of years, and we've collected over 1.5 million hearing tests. So if someone wants a very quick experience, if you want to jump straight to the experience, you can just enter your year of birth, and then this, in combination with us knowing your geographic location, allows us to approximate the best hearing profile for you. Of course, we do hear slightly differently, so someone of a certain age is going to not hear exactly the same as someone else, and then we have the option for them to take a very quick hearing test, and this is quite different to a conventional hearing test that you might have at an audiologist. Rather than measuring the quietest sound that you can hear, we instead measure how well you can hear one sound in the presence of another competing sound, and this is more relevant for our type of processing. And then in some verticals, people want a much more high resolution profile about their hearing, and then we have the option to actually create a hearing ID using your smartphone or your tablet, where you invest a little more time to get a more high resolution picture of your own personal hearing, and then this will give you the best possible experience.
Yeah, so and then that's for the individual. So let's say if we're in a group setting, how would that work for multiple people and watching the same thing? So if we're all watching the football game or whatever, how could your technology enhance it for everyone?
I think there are two ways we can answer this question. The first avenue is if you had a number of people in a room that all had a certain amount of short-sightedness, you wouldn't all sit there with your glasses off watching an 8K, a 500, whatever the TVs are now. You wouldn't all just sit there watching this blurry. But if I had a 600 prescription and you had a 200 prescription, if we both at least wore like a 200 prescription, the experience would be better for everyone. So that's one way we can go there. And then for the case where someone has a more severe hearing loss in the room, you know, we've all been in a situation where there's an elderly person in the room and they are listening to the television at this insane level, and then you try and turn the television off and then they talk to you at a perfectly normal level. And the reason this happens is not because they have a problem with audibility. They might be trying to listen to someone talking, and at the same time there'll be some background noise on the television content. And the only control that the TV manufacturers are giving them currently is a volume control. So they're just hitting this up button again and again, like, I can't hear the speech, I can't hear the speech. And everyone ends up going, oh man, this is so super loud. Instead, if we do this more intelligently and we give them a way of actually hearing the details that are relevant for them to hear, then they don't need to do this. You've given them a control of the signal to noise ratio rather than the control of just this overall level. So those are the two ways that it benefits in a group situation.
So segueing to now, I know this probably took years to develop, right? How long have you been developing this technology?
The application has been out now for about 5 years. That's the hearing test app where we've collected the 1.2 million hearing tests. But the research that has gone into the technology that we've been building has been spanning well over a decade now. So this comes back from before maybe an academic research done prior to this.
And so it's at this point now, where are you guys trying to move it? Are there currently any products on the market that have your technology?
Technology is one thing, the product is another thing. So the technology is amazing. We have to do something with that responds to the user's needs. So one first thing that we have been announcing here at IFA is to do an SDK that really properly displays all these things that we do. The hearing test, you can personalize, you can have ear intensity, decide your intensity, you can manage your hearing ID and all these things in a proper way so that it looks good, all these kind of things. And it's given to a partner that can customize the user interface and etc. And we are going to work on other cool things. For example, this amazing technology we have, we can do derivatives that work in different situations. In other areas, for example, the speech, we can optimize it for speech. And some of our results also show that we have a 3 dB, right, correct, Nick? We have 3 dB improvement in some situation, which basically is something very significant, and we will also deploy across product line in the future.
Yeah, I guess that segues perfectly into what is the future. What does 2020 look like for Mimi?
Basically, we have this idea of developing product derivatives is very much based on the same kind of core technology, definitely, and moving to the speech, definitely one area of development, and this algorithm can actually be very much improved, and as maybe Nick, you can comment on that.
Sure. We have 3 levels of technology. One side is the actual hearing assessment and the testing side, and then we have the technical challenges of integrating this technology into all the various verticals that we're putting it into. But a really big area of research at Mimi at the moment is in the fitting side of things. So we're getting an increasing amount of data about people's hearing profiles. We're getting more data about how people are using this in the real world and the kinds of content and situations where they're using it. And then this gives us a huge opportunity for doing some clever stuff with machine learning in translating the hearing profiles into the parameter sets that we distribute out to the devices.
So you heard it here. Mimi is gonna definitely change the audio scene for the better. Viewing parties, everything's going to improve. I can see it. I already want to buy it myself. So it sounds amazing. Thank you so much, Lorenzo and Nick. We hope to see you guys maybe at CES or in the future. We'll be there. As always, please subscribe, click the bell at the bottom, and we will see you next time.